Yes, it's the final week of October, which means we have the World Series, college football, the NFL, NHL action, the NBA, UFC, soccer, and let's not forget about that college basketball right around the corner. Since we're almost obliged to have a Halloween commercial, let's make it a scary good one. Until midnight on October 31st, no costume is required to get a 31% discount on one all-access package of your choice at both Wager Talk and Sports Memo using coupon code BOO31 at checkout. This coupon will save you over $12 on a one-day all-access that includes any 5% plays. And it'll also save you over $18 off a 3-day all-access. Or why not go big and save over $90 off a 30-day all-access? Or perhaps take over business for the next year by saving over $600 with a 12-month all-access package, coming out to just $3.77 per day for the next 365 days. Coupon code BOO31 expires at midnight on Halloween. But remember to use it wisely, as this coupon can only be used once at Wager Talk and once at Sports Memo. From my friend and I, happy Halloween.
What is going on, guys? Happy Friday and welcome back to Wager Talk TV. I am Andrew McInnis, and this is Puck Time. It is just Carmine and I today, and today is the season debut of the 6 in 60 segment with Carmine Bianco. I cannot wait to watch that one and cash some more tickets at some early looks for the Saturday card with Carmine. Today's show, we are breaking down 4 games. We have the Islanders Hurricanes, second game up, Avalanche Devils, Penguins Canucks, and the nightcap, the Bruins and the Columbus Blue Jackets. That might have been a bit backwards. I'm sure the Columbus Blue Jackets game isn't the nightcap, but you guys get the gist. Last night for me, it was about a break-even type of night, but a night that should have been a lot better than it was. But how about those Philadelphia Flyers? Man, it's just a great time to be somebody that's a Philadelphia fan right now. Shout out to all of them, because pretty much every single one of their sporting teams are playing very well, including soccer, football, hockey. What about that basketball team? We won't jump into that, but hey, Philadelphia, man, they continue to do it. Carter Hart with, I think, like 49 saves or 50 saves. Unbelievable effort from him. I had a loss on my best bet, guys, with the team total over for Florida. I'll try and bounce back today and end the week off on a winning note. But Carm, how was your night last night, man? And what do you have going on for this weekend?
Hello, Andrew, on your final show before you go on holidays to the great land of Ireland. Hopefully the Irishman is waiting to pick you up at the airport. Yesterday, after a good run in the week, yesterday was like a kerplunk. It wasn't good. My NHL props went 1-1. The NHL plays had the over 2 in the Sabres game. They were flat to start it out. And then the Leafs in regulation time, they just absolutely stunk it up yesterday. In that one, losing, I think they lost 4-3 in that one. I went to sleep when it was 3-1 for the Sharks. They scored 2 goals on a 2-man and then on a 1-man power play within a couple of minutes. And I said, this one's done. I'm not even going to bother going through the pain of it. And then watching that football game last night, geez, what a game. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, all I can ask is why. Andrew, Giselle and Tom are filing their divorce papers today, ironically. So she's going to get half of his incompletions from last night. That was not a good one for the Bucks. But with that said, listen, I'm excited about doing the 6 in 60 today, the first one of the year. There's not a lot of data that we normally use. I wanted to wait a couple months to do this, but we have people asking for the 6 in 60. So I'm going to throw one out there, and let's see, much like Ted Lasso in that dart scene in the show Ted Lasso, of course, the bar scene where he plays darts. Let's see if we can hit some barbecue sauce on this 6 in 60.
And it's like I always try and preach, whether it's the night before, whether it's the day before, always good to look ahead. Even if you're not placing the wagers, it's good for people that are watching this show or listening on the podcast to just be aware of how the numbers move, how the lines change. And Carm's segment will definitely help you guys out with that. That's for sure. Carm, as far as the Tom Brady situation goes, I just wonder when he's going to change his bio from family and football to just football. Because he probably should have retired and stayed there. But It turns out he's more of a football guy than a family guy, and he'd rather talk to his O-lineman than his actual family. But we won't get into it. It's not really a football show here, but I just wanted to get my
I get
in.
it. We have a couple minutes, and the Prez isn't here to interrupt us, so that's a good thing. We're not going to talk about Netflix, but you see it in a bunch of different sports. You normally don't see it in hockey. I never see it in hockey where you look at players on the ice yelling at their teammates. And you saw it with Brady yesterday. He's underthrowing Mike Evans and then yelling at Evans or blaming Evans. I see it in European football. You got guys like Ronaldo who doesn't get a pass or complains. It's just, you wonder when guys are at the tail end of their careers and they just aren't performing at their at a top level, whether they're just looking for excuses. You don't see that in hockey, and that's why I love doing this show. You don't see people. You don't see a goalie calling out his defenseman or defenseman calling out their forwards for not coming back and playing a defensive role. So this is a team game. And with that said, Andrew, we got 4 big games to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I cashed a wager last night with my clients. One of the biggest ones I've had all year, Carm. Tom Brady over 1.5 iPads thrown, and that one cashed in the first half. So if you're working for Apple, you're making a lot of money off the Buccaneers, that's for sure. But let's jump into our first one here. Let's talk about the Islanders and the Hurricanes. Carm, we always talk about how teams work off road trips or home stands and all that good stuff, but the Carolina Hurricanes, they were on the road, but they've been back and settled in for a couple of days now. And so to me, that does make a big difference how long after their road trip ends that they do play their first game. Obviously, now they're taking on an Islanders team. They're off a big win over a rival in the New York Rangers here. And they're hefty dogs at plus 165. Carolina, rightfully so. Decent-sized favorites here. Total at 5.5, which is very rare for the NHL these days. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, your first thought, Andrew, kind of like what you mentioned, is the Canes are coming home off a long road trip, and we've seen some teams coming back off a road trip with 1 day's rest, and then they got to get right back in the ice, and we worry about whether they're going to be sluggish, kind of like the Sabres looked last night, and they sort of picked it up as the game went on. I think the difference here is that the Canes have had 3 days off since that last game. They've had a chance to acclimate. And we mentioned, I think, in a previous show how when I was watching the Anaheim game the other night, Dallas Aikens talked about the fact that, he said, and I didn't look it up, but he talked about science and saying that a player's body, an NHL player's body, literally needs a day for every hour of time change he talked about. So, going from East Coast to West Coast, 3 hours, 3 days. So I'm not sure where it came from, but if he's discussing it, it is something that you had to at least take into consideration. But the Canes are also a very good team returning home. The reason I like the under in this game, and that's where I'm leaning this one, Andrew, is because you got the Canes returning home. They play extremely well at home defensively. And then you got the Isles. This is their first of a couple back-to-back games. And right now it looks like it's going to be Sorokin in goal for them tonight. He's their number 1 goalie. I mentioned on the show, I think he's the 2nd or 3rd best goalie in the league. Someone tweeted out to me and said, how can you disrespect Vasilevsky like this? I said 2nd or 3rd best goalie behind Shesterkin. So if he's not the 2nd, he's the 3rd. With that said, if this is one of those ones where check on the goalies. If it's Sorokin in goal tonight, and we already know it's Freddie Anderson confirmed for the Canes, 5.5 for me is good enough. I'll take the under.
I love that, Carm, because I talked about how the 5.5 is low for what we're seeing in the NHL these days, but it's low for a reason. And in this matchup in particular as well, Carolina is good because they do have a great offense, lots of great snipers, and they move the puck around very well. But they take care of the puck. And in games that they win, a lot of times it isn't a high-scoring game. It's not an absolute goal fest. And for someone like myself who always talks about at the end of road trips, you see higher-scoring games, I think I have to change my mindset on that and the way I think about that, because that'll probably come into effect more so when the season is in the grind, like once we get to December, January, right? but I can't really be betting those overs at the end of road trips. And I did. And especially with a team like Carolina, it's a tough team to do it with because that's not really how they want to play. You look at the Islanders coaching quotes of the Hurricanes. I mean, some coaches don't give you much, but some coaches you can tell when they're satisfied. And both these teams, their coaching staffs are satisfied when they're playing in the 3-2, 3-1 type of hockey game. So I would lean that exact way with you. But you take a look at the Islanders coming off that big win where they did shut out the New York Rangers, which was shocking to, I think, both of us there for a Rangers team to get shut out. But I'm going to go ahead and I think I do have a lean towards Carolina in regulation. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to the window with it yet, but I think they'll be happy to be home. They are well rested, and let's face it here. That road trip wasn't the best for them. It wasn't, they didn't light it up every game there. They had a good start to the road trip, but there were certainly some things to fix. And I think this is to me 2 under teams, but I think Carolina is the better of the 2, so who can play better defensively and who can counterattack better? I think that goes towards Carolina. Of course, they are the big favorites for a reason. Carm, we've been talking
Andrew,
about the Devils. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. And I was going to say, when you look at that road trip and, that 5-game road trip, essentially they picked up 7 of a possible 10 points. When you head on I don't care what team it is, even the defending Stanley Cup champions, when you head on the road for a 5-game road trip, if they tell you, we'll give you 7 points, pretty much every single franchise is going to want that 7 points. So it's nothing. I think it was a successful one for this team, and this was also a team where I understand playoffs are completely different than the regular season. But we saw the struggles that Carolina had on the road during the NHL playoffs, where they were nearly flawless at home, but they hit the road, and that's why they ended up in a lot of 7-game series, is they just could not win those road games.
Yeah.
So it bodes well for this team to be able to win on the road, and especially a Western trip. Again, I'll reiterate the fact I love to normally fade teams off a road trip, especially a West Coast trip coming back to the East Coast. But the fact that they've had 3 days off, I think, definitely favors this team going into tonight's game.
That split is so funny, how much better they play at home, the playoffs especially. It's crazy to see. But now we'll find out how good they really are at home and how much different they can play here. That game should be a fun one to watch. Look forward to it. Let's talk about the Avalanche visiting the Devils here. The Devils have won 3 of their last 4 games. Colorado, they've just won 2 straight games, and they beat Vegas Golden Knights and the New York Rangers. So they're currently in good form, and they're beating good teams, which is what they care the most about. Before that, though, they did drop 2, and it was to Seattle and Winnipeg. So talk about playing up or down to your opponent. Seems like Colorado certainly did that in their last 4 games here. But this price might be a little bit of a head scratcher here with Colorado just minus 135 on the road. The Devils plus 115. Look, when they were struggling, Carm, to start the year off defensively, I knew that they had some issues. And Blackwood honestly hasn't been great. He hasn't been perfect, that's for sure. He's shown some issues, but they've turned things around, and they had a good offseason picking up some guys, especially a guy like Palat. But are they ready? Are they ready for the defending Stanley Cup champions here tonight to be able to compete with them? Do you think they can battle tonight with the Avalanche?
I do. I absolutely do. They're playing well. Of course, they threw in the clunker when I took them against the Washington Capitals, but they've got 4 wins surrounding those games, and it's interesting, Andrew, because we look at if I was to tell you, if I just read off some scores, I said a couple teams playing tonight, Andrew. One of them coming off a 6-2 victory, the other one coming off a 3-2 overtime win, and they've won their previous 2 games by 3-2 scorelines. You're not thinking it's the Colorado Avalanche, because we just equate Colorado with goals, it seems like, every time. But that hasn't happened thus far. At some point, they're going to open up and they're going to start scoring goals. This actually could be one of those games where it happens, just because you and I have discussed offline New Jersey and how many chances the New Jersey games have for goals. It is unbelievable in these the actual chances, the expected goals in some of these New Jersey games. And sometimes they don't get there, but the chances are there. In that game, I think that they lost 6-3 to the Washington Capitals, I think the expected goals in that game were 4-2 for New Jersey. So it just shows you sometimes the final analytical numbers don't actually show what happened within that game. I'm going to go with the over in this game. I like the over. I think we're going to get enough chances in this game to get this over the total. The line does seem kind of fishy on Colorado, -135, but maybe that is also giving a couple things, giving New Jersey respect. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, are playing well, and then the fact that Colorado isn't 100% healthy as of yet. So the Landeskog thing still hangs over them as well too. So, but I'm going to look for some goals here, Andrew. I think we could see a fast-paced game, and I'm going to be watching this one tonight. So I'm hoping for some goals.
It's hard to go against it. I think it's one of those things where you got to look at what these teams bring to the table and really not expect anything else but that. Coming off a game against the New York Rangers and even the Vegas Golden Knights as well, who when they have good goaltending, they are a tough team to play against. The Devils will be a little bit easier for the Colorado to skate around. That's for sure. They will be easier to go around. But the Devils have improved themselves, and they've improved their zone exits, which is something I always look at. So it should be a fast-paced, up-and-down game. Power plays will be really important in this one. There's no doubt about it. When you have a total this high as well, you always need power plays to be critical, and both power plays are rolling for these clubs. So I think that's super important. So I'm right on the same page as you, Carm, with that. But I'm not going to think twice about it, and I'm going to take the Colorado Avalanche as well here on the highway. This is a spot where I think the Devils are playing well recently, but they're not in the weight class yet of this Colorado team. And I think we get a decent performance out of Colorado, and we could see somewhat of a 4-3, 5-3 win here for the Avalanche. We'll cash our over, and we'll cash a win on the road team. The Devils are looking good, though, Carm. I just don't know if they're ready to step up here and play the number one contender or the champion.
You know the old saying, Andrew, if you want to be the champ, you got to beat the champs. And and it's only a regular season game, but you got the champs coming to town. You know that arena is going to be hopping. They're going to be making some noise. So we'll see what happens. So one of the worst things that could possibly happen is me to settle in to watch this game, and it finishes like OT 1-0 final for somebody in this game. I want to see some goals, and I'm hoping that we see it in this game. This will probably be, you can tell right out of the gate, I think, if you're live betting this game, this is going to be a great game. If you see these teams are going up and down the ice early on, it should be a quick-paced game. That's when you want to bet that in-game over, especially if you don't get any goals within the first 3, 4, or 5 minutes of this game, Andrew. That 6.5 drops down to a 6. I don't think you'll see a 5.5, but you might get a 6 over plus money, and that's not a bad way to go either.
I'll tell you what, Carm, somebody or something has to pay for the airport beers I'm going to consume tonight when I wait for my flight. So I might as well cash some tickets, watch some games while I'm drinking some of these cold ones at the airport. And some good games to watch tonight while doing that, that's for sure. How about the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Vancouver Canucks? This one has situational written all over it. Vancouver finally gets their first win of the season. And again, it does not come in easy fashion. Man, this team just makes it hard on themselves, really. Start the game off, 2 fights, and then they just pretty much traded goals throughout the entire game. With Seattle, they come out on top as plus 105 dogs and win the game 5-4. What a game that was. That was wild. I wish I caught more of that one, honestly, but now they're taking on Pittsburgh as big dogs, and Pittsburgh minus 180 as they come to town. And Pittsburgh, they're in the middle of a road trip right now. Here we've seen Pittsburgh play Calgary, Edmonton, Columbus. So as you talk about, Carm, with the Alberta double there, Pittsburgh certainly didn't fare very well. I was against you and Buster on that, and boy, did I look wrong on that one. Calgary is a team I'm really high on. I figured I'd get more of an effort out of Pittsburgh. But when it comes down to it, we see Jake Gensel, who's listed as questionable for tonight. So is Jason Zucker. And, of course, Teddy Bluger being on the IR for the season doesn't really help them very much. But this Pittsburgh team, I just love the fact that they're built with so many vets. I know I probably overuse that, Carm, but to me, leadership is so important, especially on a hockey team. When you've got so many lines, somebody has to be in that dressing room saying something, whether it's before the game, in the intermission. They're very well coached. I think this line is appropriate. I do like Pittsburgh to get the job done. I think potentially we could see them win the first period. I might take them actually minus a half goal in the first period. Everyone's ready to, load up, ready to start betting on Vancouver. They won their first game already. And I think that there's not a worse team in the league they could be playing right now after that first win than the Pittsburgh Penguins, as they're ready to get going again and bounce back after losing 2 straight games to 2 good hockey teams. So Pittsburgh comes to town. I think they're going to rain all over the parade in Vancouver. What do you think, Carm?
Yeah, I think so too, Andrew. One angle that I usually like to use is, after a long winning streak or losing streak. If it's a losing streak and a team wins a game, I come right back with them and take them the next time out, because sometimes that the monkey is off your back. And by the same token, a team with a big winning streak that loses one, the vibe's a little different sometimes, and you sometimes see them lose a second game in a row, a third game in a row. But the fact remains here that the Canucks haven't played well in spite of winning that game. They're on second of a back-to-back, and they're playing a Pens team that have had a couple days off after that loss to the Calgary Flames, and that was a bad spot for Pittsburgh as well too. That was their 4th game, and I think 5 nights for them. Their 3rd game of the road trip, and that was the 3rd game in 4 nights on that road trip. So getting that a couple days off to get ready for this game is probably a good one. They started this road trip where they win in Columbus and then they lose in the Alberta double both games. You got to look for them to bounce back here. The price is high. You can look at taking them in regulation time if you want, but if you don't mind laying the 160 or 170 or 180 or whatever it's at right now, I wouldn't fault you for taking Pittsburgh at this price. With that said, one play that I've mentioned in Pittsburgh games this year that has been a profitable one was the shots on goal prop, the rust prop. And I said at some point the books are going to catch up. The rust over 2.5 shots was always about 125 to 135, but to use the Chris Berman one, it was like whoop, and now that line has gone up to like minus 160 for over 2.5 shots for rust. So the books are catching up on it. They're not going to move them to 3.5 because then people will just bet the under 3.5 shots on goal. But if you can find the rust shots on goal at your book, it's still in that 145 to 150 range, I would take that. And I might still play it. A couple of days off for this team, looking to bounce back off of back-to-back losses to Edmonton and Calgary, and catching a Vancouver team on the second of a back-to-back. So it's the Penguins for me.
Let's rock with the Pittsburgh Penguins here. Off 2 rough games and Vancouver. You know what, Carm, I got to mention real quick, and I want your thoughts on this, because Vancouver, not only have they struggled, but lots of their games have been high scoring, back and forth. They just seem exhausting. That has to play a role in it's not, if you look at their entire losing streak that they had, I don't think one of those games was by more than 2 goals that they lost. That's got to be both mentally and physically draining. I know it's the start of the season, but I like the expression you used with getting the monkey off your back. It almost seems like the monkey's off their back, but now at least if they lose, they're not winless anymore, and it's like they don't, at least every game isn't a must win. We hate to throw around that word, the expression, but doesn't it feel like to you like the last 3 games for Vancouver has been must win mode? And now it must be like a big exhale, and here comes Pittsburgh to town. It just doesn't really seem like a good recipe for success.
Yeah, I don't think I'm entirely convinced that this is a Vancouver team that is ready to start putting a bunch of wins together. They did it in, like you said, they did it in hard fashion, or whatever you want to call it, last night. It wasn't a convincing win. And now they're returning home, and I'm just not sure that that energy level will be there tonight against the Penguins. I think Pittsburgh's a better team, and again, it's the second of a back-to-back. I think they got a win off their shoulders. They're probably relieved. They'll eventually start to win games and probably games in bunches, but this isn't a team I figure was going to make the playoffs anyways. So while surprised with with their losing streak out of the gate, I'm not completely shocked by it either. You figure they're going to have more losses than wins this season, and probably end up in that 9th or 10th spot in the Western Conference.
I'll tell you about a team I'm shocked about this year, and that's the Boston Bruins. I feel like an absolute goof for saying how bad they were going to be to start off their season. And I couldn't think of a better word to use that was appropriate for YouTube and podcasting. But when you look at this Boston Bruins team, first of all, they're minus 145 tonight against the visiting Columbus, who are on the road. Columbus plus 125. You take a look at this Bruins team, 7-1, but not just that, they are scoring at will, it seems like, putting up goals and then finding ways to win low-scoring games. This is a team that's just flat out made me look bad, and they're beating goalies like Gibson, Marc-Andre Fleury, Jake Ottinger. It's not like they've just had a easy strength of schedule by any means. And then you go ahead and you get, Brad Marchand back for one game. I did see that he will be resting tonight, so we're going to see our first instance of hockey load management. The Boston Bruins and Brad Marchand channeling their inner Kawhi Leonard. But I'm impressed by this Boston Bruins team. And frankly, Carm, I don't really want to go against them, but I don't want to bet on them tonight. What I actually want to do is take a look at the under. And it might be hard to do with how this Boston Bruins team is looking so far offensively. In Columbus, they've been kind of a weak defensive team, let's be honest, betting overs with them. I mean, if you're going to give up 5 goals to the Arizona Coyotes, something's probably wrong with you. So I think they've got lots to fix. They've got a motivation as far as, better defensive hockey. And the Boston Bruins, I think their offense could cool down. So it might be a little contrarian for me, especially after I ripped on their defense all offseason. But I think we could see a low-scoring game, especially in a back-to-back spot here. So I'll go to you, and I want to ask you, does Columbus meet your criteria tonight for fading a team in a back-to-back, and that would be Boston?
Well, I'm not going to look at a side in this game, and you and I are not going to agree on this one ultimately, because not only is this a client play, it's also a free play that is up on the Wager Talk free plays section of our site, which has a lot of plays in college football and NFL this weekend, and some NHL ones if you guys want to head over there. But I took the over in this one, Andrew, and I'm not worried about load management here. If someone told you at the beginning of this NHL season, after 8 games or 9 games of the season, who would be the highest scoring team, the Boston Bruins would not be the team that people would have answered. But here we are, 35 goals through 8 games. They have scored. They're scoring goals. They are 5-2-1 to the over thus far. The 2 games that didn't go over the total were against the Dallas Stars, and you can always expect any game with the Dallas Stars to probably stay under. And then the Anaheim Ducks, who aren't the highest scoring team themselves, so you can understand that one as well too. You look at Columbus, 6-1-1 to the over. These are teams that are scoring goals. A change in philosophy in Boston, even with not their full squad, but Cassidy no longer there, a defensive-minded coach. They're just playing a different brand of hockey, and one that I think their fans are liking, and maybe one that the players are enjoying right now. They're just scoring goals. That will happen with teams. We see it. You get a coaching change, and all of a sudden a team plays a completely different style. So, with that said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. These teams are 11-3-2 combined to the over. I'm taking the over 6.5 tonight.
All right, the gloves are off at center ice. Carmine and I are going head-to-head here. And it's a tough one for me to try and play contrarian with these 2 teams, but we'll see what happens. Curious to see if Boston keeps on rolling 7-1. They're off to a great start this season. Guys, make sure you take advantage of all the Halloween specials we have going on at wagertalk.com right now, and check out the free plays section. Like Carm mentioned, there's always free plays. If you don't buy picks, that's completely fine with us. Tune in to our shows, hit the like button on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you didn't know, we do have an app now, Wager Talk TV, on iOS, Android, Roku devices. So all of those places are great spots to look for all of our content here at wagertalk.com. But I'm looking forward to a great weekend. Before we jump into best bets, how about we do the 6 in 60 segment, Carm? I'll go over to you for that. And let's start things off on a great note, Carm. Let's hit some early winners.
Yeah, before we get going on the 6 and 60 and we start that clock, because I know our producer, even though this guy is full of energy right now because he is a Philadelphia through and through, and even the Flyers are winning. So this guy is just super pumped, although his Sixers did lose to the Raptors. But anyways, with that said, he wants to hit that bell badly. Who are the Sixers? Anyways, he says, who are the Sixers in my ear? Always remember, these are the overnight lines. So there are going to be some adjustments in the line. So don't come chirping and saying minus 140. Where did you get that? That's at minus 170 now. These are the overnight lines. It's just to give you an idea of my thoughts on these games. Not a lot of data to start the year. We're only 8 games into the season. But with that said, no excuses. Let's get to the 6 and 60 and see if we can hit some winners. Start that clock, Dan. Where's my clock? There it is. All right, Buffalo and Chicago. I'm going to go over 6.5 in this one. Sabres were flat on Thursday. Hawks were opened up by the Oilers. I'm expecting some goals as both teams get some scoring going there. Detroit and Minnesota. Minnesota in this one. The Wild are starting to turn around their season. And if they win this one, they've got 3 extremely winnable games coming up. So they could be on a big streak this time next week. Philadelphia and Carolina. Carolina in regulation time. Carolina with the East's best road record thus far. I think they're going to burst Tortorella's bubble in Philadelphia in this one. St. Louis and Montreal. St. Louis minus 115 in regulation. Canadians got a rare win on the road. They're going to be singing the blues on Saturday. Calgary and Edmonton. Flames minus 133 in this one. Oilers need to tighten up that defense or they're going to get lit up by the Flames on Saturday, and I believe they will. And then finally, Nashville and Washington. Nashville minus 110. They tasted victory on Thursday. They're going to double up here.
Ooh.
That is your 6 and 60.
Ding. Way to go, Carm. That's a great segment. And, man, you rapid fire through those. I loved the whole segment besides the fact that it was a minus 1,000. You were going to fade my Canadians tomorrow, which I don't like. But I hope you make some money tomorrow. And for all of you guys out there, just like Carm said, these are early prices. These are look-ahead numbers. Do not complain if you get a different number tomorrow. That's the whole point of this 6 and 60 segment here on a Friday. I'll start things off with best bets for the show. Before I do that, though, just a reminder for all of you guys, it is a huge time to be a sports bettor, a sports fan right now. And I've got UFC around 4 plays for this weekend. I've got NFL. I have 2 CFL plays, Canadian football, number 1 at Wager Talk, having a great season with that. Of course, NHL tomorrow. Saturday is always a jam-packed day. I really encourage people, do not buy just one play on the weekend. If there's one thing you're going to do if you're buying plays, don't buy just one play tomorrow. Buy a day pass, buy a 3 days. That is the way to go. I'm going to look at the over in the Pittsburgh Penguins and Vancouver Canucks game. Look, Vancouver, they got their first win, but they're still giving up a bunch of goals every single game they play in. And Pittsburgh, well, they're kind of an over team as well. They had a rough go against both Edmonton and Calgary. And as much as I feel like they will come out on top tonight, I don't think it'll be an easy fashion by any means or low-scoring fashion. Give me the over, the Pittsburgh Penguins and Vancouver Canucks for tonight's game. Carm, over to you, man. You've been carrying the load here with the best bet winners this week. I had a rough go this week. I'll try and bounce back. You know what? I'll take a week off to try and regroup, and I'll come back in 2 weeks and try and cash some tickets. But what do you have for our best bet for today?
We're going to need some, we're really going to need some drunk TikTok videos of you going, through some pubs in Ireland and what have you. So you better get some stuff up on TikTok. You better get some free play videos up on Twitter. But we look forward to having you back in a couple weeks' time. Enjoy your week away, Andrew. It's well-deserved, man. You have had, especially with hockey, you've had an unbelievable run over the last year plus. So take a week off. Brian will fill in for you on Monday. The Prez will fill in for you on Friday. And we've got Don Buster, Prez, and Brian on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in their regular spots. We'll be fine. You rest up. Have a great time, man. As far as myself, guys, a couple, 3 plays up in NHL. You already got one of them, and it's going to be my best bet on this show. And college football card, NFL card, 4 plays each one of those days. I have a big 5% play going tomorrow in soccer. So that 3-day all access package, $59, is going to get you all of those plays right through Sunday. including some NHL and, of course, some World Series baseball as well, too. So grab that $59 3-day all-access package today and get Friday through Sunday. My best bet, Andrew, I'm going to go back to the game that we discussed, which was the Boston and Columbus game. I'm going to look the over 6.5 in this one. Again, Bruins playing lights out as far as scoring. 35 goals through 8 games, 5-2-1 to the over. Columbus 6-1-1 to the over. A lot of it has to do with their not so great defense. Let's hope for some goals tonight in this one. These teams 11-3-2 to the over thus far this season combined. Over 6.5 is your show best bet. Guys, have an absolutely fantastic weekend. We love you guys tuning in, commenting. Hit that like button, subscribe, and just kill your bookies this week. Not literally, just, make
I
money.
love it, Carm. I love your energy, and I appreciate the kind words. I look forward to a fun trip, and I'm sure everybody will hold the fort down for me while I'm gone. Best of luck to you, Carm. Best of luck to all of our viewers out there watching. To recap the power plays, I have Pittsburgh, Vancouver, over 6.5. Carmine has Boston, Columbus, over 6.5. I want to thank Carmine, my co-host, our producer, Dan, and all of you guys out there that watch us every single day. You do not go unnoticed. Enjoy your weekend, guys, and best of luck. I'll see you next time.
Boo! Yes, it's the final week of October, which means we have the World Series, college football, the NFL, NHL action, the NBA, UFC, soccer, and let's not forget about that college basketball right around the corner. Since we're almost obliged to have a Halloween commercial, let's make it a scary good one. Until midnight on October 31st, no costume is required to get a 31% discount on one all-access package of your choice at both Wager Talk and Sports Memo using coupon code BOO31 at checkout. This coupon will save you over $12 on a one-day all-access that includes any 5% plays. And it'll also save you over $18 off a 3-day all-access. Or why not go big and save over $90 off a 30-day all-access? Or perhaps take over business for the next year by saving over $600 with a 12-month all-access package, coming out to just $3.77 per day for the next 365 days. Coupon code BOO31 expires at midnight on Halloween. But remember to use it wisely, as this coupon can only be used once at Wager Talk and once at Sports Memo. From my friend and I, happy Halloween.